Thanks for watching the Fumble. Very few careers have involved as much winning with style and grace as Roger Federer's, and today we're going to take a look at his journey to being your Fumble GOAT. It all started August 8, 1981 in Basel, Switzerland. Roger always had a love for sports. By the time he was 8, he was playing both soccer and tennis, and by the time he was 11, tennis won 100% of his focus and drive. Why? He recalls that he just excelled more naturally at tennis. I don't think he even realized at the time how true that really was. That same year, he became one of the top 3 junior tennis players in all of Switzerland. By the age of 14, tennis became his entire life. He was playing 2 to 3 tournaments a month, practicing a minimum of 6 hours a week with a minimum of 3 hours of conditioning. Roger began to imitate his play after his idols Boris Becker and Stefan Edberg. Just 3 years after he was named a top 3 junior tennis player in Switzerland, he became #1 for junior tennis players in Switzerland. Yes, at age 14, he became the national junior champion in Switzerland and was chosen to train at the Swiss National Tennis Center. By the age of 16, he was already being sponsored, and by 17, he won the Junior Wimbledon title and the Orange Bowl. He was honored as the ITF World Junior Tennis Champion of the Year. After mastering the juniors, it was time for the pros. At the 2001 Wimbledon, he became a tennis sensation. Why? Because he knocked out reigning singles champion Pete Sampras in the 4th round. In 2003, Roger became the first Swiss man to win a Grand Slam title when he won again at Wimbledon. With that in mind, it shouldn't come as a surprise that just 1 year later, he was already ranked #2 in the world. He went on to win the Australian Open, the US Open, and the ATP Masters. Oh yeah, and he retained the Wimbledon singles title. In 2005, at the age of 23, he was ranked #1 in the world. Proving why he deserved that ranking, he went on to win the Wimbledon singles title for the 3rd year in a row and the US Open. All he could do was win, win, win. 2006 and 2007 followed suit. More winning. Roger won the singles title at the Australian Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open. Because of his graceful athleticism, Federer was named the Laureus World Sportsman of the Year from 2005 to 2008. The year 2008 came with high highs and low lows. Roger beat Andy Murray at the US Open with his 5th US Open win. Now that same year, he also lost to his rival Rafael Nadal twice, once at the French Open and again at Wimbledon. And then he took another loss to Novak Djokovic at the Australian Open. His ranking also slid to #2 for the first time in 4 years. It was a rough year, but as with all GOATs, he used that as fuel to get better. 2009 was a memorable year for Roger for a few reasons. He beat Robin Soderling in the French Open and had another career Grand Slam. He also defeated Andy Roddick in an epic Wimbledon final and passed Pete Sampras for a record of 15 Grand Slam singles titles. He reached the finals of the Australian Open but fell to Nadal, and the US Open but fell to Juan Martín del Potro. Now, because of his overall brilliant play that year, he regained his spot as #1 in the world's ranking. He also became a husband and a father. Roger married his girlfriend, who's also a tennis player, and that July the couple became parents of identical twin girls, Mila and Charlene. In 2012, he did it again. Roger beat Andy Murray for a 7th singles Wimbledon singles title, and once again he got that #1 spot. By the end of the year, he established a record with a total of 302 weeks on top of the world rankings. In 2013, Roger suffered a huge upset. He was knocked out of Wimbledon by Sergei Stakhovsky, who was ranked 116th at the time. At the US Open later that year, he struggled again. He lost to Tommy Robredo in the 4th round and later said he struggled throughout, which is not very satisfying, and that his rhythm was off. That energy carried into the following year. Roger lost at Wimbledon again and at the US Open after making it to the semifinals. But he did win a pair of doubles. Yes, his wife gave birth to a 2nd set of twin boys, Leo and Lenny. 2015 also began on a hard note when he lost to Andreas Seppi at the Australian Open. But once again, he used his last year of hard luck to bounce back. He went on to win the Dubai Championships and prove he could still compete with other elite players by defeating Djokovic. Unfortunately for Roger, that was the only time he would beat Djokovic that year. Djokovic went on to beat him at Wimbledon and the US Open. Roger tried to redeem his last loss at Wimbledon in July of 2016, however, he was not successful. On top of a string of losses, he was suffering from knee and back injuries. In order to prevent his injuries from getting worse, he took 6 months off to heal. The public didn't quite have the faith that Roger would be able to recover. But maybe a rest is ultimately what he needed, because when he returned to compete at the Australian Open, he won it all. He beat his old rival Nadal and won his 18th Grand Slam title. After the match, Roger paid tribute to Nadal, who had also been out with injuries, and said, "I'd like to congratulate Rafael on an amazing comeback too. I don't think either one of us thought we would be in the final at the Australian Open this year. I'm happy for you. I would have been happy to lose to you tonight too, really." It seems as though the luck we witnessed in the beginning of his career began to favor him once again. He beat Nadal again in the Miami Open just a few months later, and he won his 5th Indian Wells title. Roger confirmed he will compete at the French Open in May of 2017, but his attention is on the 3rd Grand Slam of the year a few weeks later. He said Wimbledon has to be the biggest goal now. Aside from being a tennis legend, Roger gives his heart in another way. He started a foundation that provides grants to underprivileged countries that have high child mortality rates of more than 15% for education and sports-related projects. Roger has followed in the footsteps of his homeland and stayed relatively neutral throughout his career. His public image has remained liked, kind, and unscathed with scandal or drama. Is he the greatest man to play tennis? According to records, he is. He holds the most Grand Slam singles titles for men, and as they say, numbers don't lie. For all the latest in sports, make sure to subscribe before you go.